One of the biggest challenges we face in our digital world is this. How do you take a messy, chaotic jumble of raw data and turn it into a clear, compelling story? Well, today we're going to show you exactly how that's done, and it's all powered by the incredible versatility of Python.
Right? That's the big question. How do we make that leap? How do you get from a raw, confusing block of information to a powerful, automated narrative that actually makes sense to someone? It seems like a massive jump, but that's exactly what we're breaking down for you. And this slide right here, it says it all. On the left, you've got raw data, as it often looks in the wild. This is something called nested JSON. Think of it like data inside of data, like folders within folders. It is dense, it is so hard to read, and honestly, it's a nightmare to analyze. But on the right, that's our end goal. A clean, insightful infographic that tells a clear story. It's the same data, but the impact? It's a world of difference. So we're going to go on a journey. We're going to follow this data through its entire life cycle, a process that we call a data pipeline. We'll go from extraction at the source, through all the cleaning and analysis, all the way to a final automatically generated presentation. And the conductor of this entire orchestra? The one and only, the incredibly versatile programming language, Python. All right, first up, section 1, data in the wild. Before we can tell any kind of story, we have to actually find our data. And that means heading out into its natural habitat, which, let me tell you, is often messy, unstructured, and frankly, a little bit intimidating. As Mark Dupuy from FOBI puts it, data professionals are often confronted with formats like JSON. And that word is perfect. Whether it's security logs or app analytics or API responses, the most valuable information almost never arrives in a neat, ready-to-use package. And that's the first major hurdle we've got to clear. How to deal with data that just wasn't designed for easy analysis. Okay, so we know our data is out there, hiding in some system. But how in the world do we get our hands on it? Well, that brings us to section 2, extracting the raw data. Let's figure out how we actually pull this information out. The secret? It's usually something called an API, or Application Programming Interface. Now, the easiest way to think about an API is like a waiter in a restaurant. You don't just storm into the kitchen yourself, right? No, you give your order to the waiter, and they bring you exactly what you asked for. Well, in the same way, our Python script uses an API to order the data we need from a server, like, say, the Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager.
Now, you can't just walk in and take what you want. There's a security protocol, and it's a lot like a secret handshake. First off, as you see in step 1, your script sends its credentials to prove it's allowed in. Then, for step 2, the server checks them out, says, okay, you're good, and sends back a temporary key called an access token. Finally, in step 3, your script uses that token to make its actual request for the data. This whole 3-step process keeps everything secure and totally automated.
So how do we manage this whole back and forth conversation in our script? This is where a little bit of Python magic comes in, with a fantastic library called requests. And this thing is a total game changer. It simplifies these really complex web communications down to just a few lines of code, handling all that credential and token management for us automatically. It is so powerful. Okay, we have the data. But as we saw, it's still in that messy, nested JSON format. That brings us to section 3, taming the JSON beast. It's time to turn this chaos into clarity.
Just look at this, seriously. Take a look at that security log_data column. It's a disaster. All the important details, the IP address, the file name, whether a login was successful, they're all buried inside that messy text. If you wanted to, say, sort by IP address or count the different event types, you just couldn't. It's not practical for any real analysis.
But then, bam, look at this. This is the after. What a beautiful clean table. We've flattened the JSON, breaking out all those nested details into their own organized columns. Now we have event type, detail IP, and detail file all separate. We can finally query, sort, and analyze this data with ease. This right here, this is the aha moment of data clean. So what's the superhero that made this transformation happen? It's a library called Pandas. Honestly, Pandas is the absolute cornerstone of data manipulation in Python. It's designed specifically for this kind of work, for turning messy data into these clean, powerful structures called data frames, just like the one we just made.
All right, now that our data is clean, structured, and sitting nicely in a Pandas data frame, this is where the real fun begins. That brings us to section 4, the Data Scientist Toolkit, where we can finally start searching for those hidden insights.
This is kind of like the data scientist superhero team. You've got NumPy for all the heavy-duty math. It's the engine under the hood. You've got Matplotlib and Seaborn for creating all sorts of insightful charts and graphs. This is how we start to actually see the story in the data. And then there's scikit-learn, the go-to library for building powerful machine learning models, which can help us make predictions based on that data. And now for the grand finale, Section 5, Automated Storytelling. We've extracted the data, we've cleaned it, we've analyzed it. Now let's see how Python can create the final presentation completely automatically. This is where things get really, really cool. Yeah, we're moving way beyond just spitting out a static chart. At this stage, Python becomes the director of the show. It starts using other APIs to automatically build rich, dynamic media, like videos or advanced infographics, directly from our clean data. It's literally putting the final story together for us. Take a tool like Creatimate, for instance. The process, as you can see here, is so slick. First, a designer creates a video template. Second, our Python script takes our key findings, the most important numbers, the crucial trends, and it fills in that template using the Creatimate API. And finally, the API renders a brand new, custom video with zero human editing required. Just think about that. You could generate daily video security briefings or weekly sales reports, all perfectly tailored and completely automated. But what if we could take it even one step further? What if the AI could also be the designer for us? Well, that is the mind-blowing idea behind a tool called LiDA. It's a cutting-edge project that uses large language models, the exact same tech behind tools like ChatGPT, to look at your raw data and not just plot it, but to understand its meaning and automatically generate these compelling, stylized infographics that are designed to communicate. And this slide just shows you the leap in a nutshell. On the left, you've got a perfectly fine scatter plot, the kind of data scientists would make with a standard library. It's informative, sure, but it's plain. On the right, that's LiDA's take on the exact same data. It's not just a chart, it's a beautifully designed, stylized infographic that tells a story at a single glance. This is AI becoming a creative partner in data storytelling. It's amazing. So, to bring it all home, from that initial raw API call through the crucial data cleaning and analysis, and all the way to a polished AI-generated final product, what's the one thing holding it all together? It's Python. It's the glue, the central nervous system that connects every single tool and automates every single step of this modern data workflow. Which brings us to a final and pretty profound question. As these pipelines become more powerful and more automated, we're entering a world where data can essentially tell its own story. So the challenge for us shifts away from how do we present this data to a much more important question. What should we be asking in the first place? When automation handles the how, what new, deeper, and more profound questions will we choose to ask?